he's the Shuvit man. Oh, he's the Shuvit man.
Shuvit Squad. On Ring of the Hawk, we always listen to the fans. I asked you to vote out of 5 bad wrestlers because I felt like Garett, Bischoff and Black Rain were getting a bit lonely in the Shuvit Zone. The Hawk has been flying high and low from Bonest and Solway to Westwood Ho in search of bad wrestlers. And the winner of the poll is Matt Morgan. Congratulations to you, young man. Was it just a bad gimmick though, or was he a bad wrestler? Also on a completely different subject, a lot of you have been asking me about Jimmy Rave. Honestly, I wanted to make a video on it today, but I've decided to take the extra time to do his career a bit more justice, so that should be on Saturday. I also want to do a quick reminder to everybody of the rules of Ring of the Hawk. I don't want to do this on every video, otherwise you might all smack me one. But just to confirm it again, the wrestler must have wrestled 30 or less matches on the main shows. So bear that in mind or I'll punch you in the gut. And stop making bad suggestions that nobody wants to see. Nobody out there wants me to have to waste 2 evenings of my life watching a greasy scrub like Wes Briscoe scramble around the ring, gritting his teeth, covered in piss from the latest Aces and Eights initiation. Also, Brother Peace on his Friday Night Impact reviews has been talking about how to make Impact more fun again. I think he's going to take a shot every time he gets angry. I don't know, ask him what he's going to do. On to the video though. I would love it if you can all post what you think Matt Morgan was missing. Why didn't he make it as a star? What key skill was he missing? And of course,
if you know a wrestler who could do the J-O-B to the H-A-W-K any night, any day, ha ha! Shove their name in the comments, Jack!
Matt Morgan started out on the main roster on SmackDown in the autumn of 2002. He was introduced alongside Nathan Jones by Paul Heyman. Heyman hyped him up as his #1 draft pick and said that he'd be the next big thing. That's a massive billing to live up to. Let's see if he can do it in the WWE. He's immediately recruited and joins Paul Heyman's team for the Survivor Series matchup. Match 1, SmackDown, Handicap match. Brock Lesnar teams up with Nathan Jones, Matt Morgan and the A-Train, and they take on Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit. Lesnar isn't sweating this match and joins the commentary team. Morgan throws Benoit around before Benoit starts to out-wrestle him. Angle then gets the tag but shouldn't have bothered as Morgan hits a sidewalk slam. Kurt sweeps Morgan's legs out and he awkwardly smacks his face on the bottom turnbuckle. Morgan then tries to whip Benoit into the corner and Benoit goes down, but Morgan didn't think he was going to. Very basic big man offense here, so far without much intensity. Lesnar eventually decides that he wants to take part. Morgan finally gets the tag again and hits some shoulders in the corner. He tries to get Benoit to tap out in the bear hug, but Angle breaks it up. The match then breaks down and Angle hits the Angle slam on Morgan. Our team is about to tap out, but then the Big Show runs in to interfere and the match is thrown out. Kind of an unimpressive debut. They're in a 4-on-2 advantage and they still almost lost. I give his debut a D. After this match, the 2 Survivor Series teams fight, and then Morgan hits a powerbomb on Bradshaw. Match 2, Survivor Series 2003. John Cena, Kurt Angle, Hardcore Holly, Chris Benoit and Bradshaw versus the A-Train, Big Show, Nathan Jones, Matt Morgan and Brock Lesnar. If you're wondering why Hardcore Holly is in this match, he's just returning from Brock Lesnar breaking his neck. He's disqualified straight away. Bradshaw eliminates A-Train straight after. Big Show then eliminates Bradshaw. They aren't hanging around in this match, are they? Morgan gets in and fights against Cena, but he misses a leg drop. Morgan does recover and hits a sidewalk slam on Cena. He then tags Jones, but Jones launches Morgan into Cena. There are no eliminations for quite a long time. Surprisingly, Morgan and Jones are still in the match. Morgan takes the German suplexes from Angle. The match then breaks down as Nathan Jones accidentally kicks Morgan and then he trips over him. Angle then nails Morgan with the Angle slam and our guy is out. The match is eventually won by John Cena after taking out the Big Show with an FU. Not a great match for Morgan, but it was a great match for everybody else. Morgan was just kind of there. He's huge, but for some reason he just does not have the presence of a big man. I'm giving it another D. Match 3, SmackDown. Jeff Hardy's stoner friend versus Matt Morgan. Bit of a size mismatch here. Shannon tries to go for a tilt-a-whirl head scissors, but Morgan drops him on his face. We then get to see the same Matt Morgan formula that we saw for the next decade. Shoulders in the corner, chokes with his foot. Morgan then throws Shannon across the ring, and it didn't make Shannon sing. Jeff Hardy's stoner friend tries to fight back, but it doesn't last long because Morgan boots him in the face. Morgan gets bored of how easy it is and chucks Shannon out of the ring. Ouch, bad landing. Morgan goes outside and shoves Shannon back into the ring. He's finished, but Morgan doesn't want it to be over yet. Matt then picks him up and drives him through the mat with a powerbomb. It's now over. A nice little job match there. I'll give it a C. Match 4, SmackDown, Chris Benoit versus Matt Morgan. Benoit must win this match to be allowed into a battle royal later tonight. Benoit does a good job outspeeding Morgan. Benoit then gives him the German suplex. Morgan eventually gets the jump on Benoit and crushes him on the ropes. Matt Morgan then does a suplex and follows it up with a leg drop, but Benoit kicks out. Morgan continues his attack and hits a high impact sidewalk slam. Matt Morgan's doing okay here and he drops Benoit gut first on his knee. Morgan then gets overconfident and clumsily misses Benoit. He just looks like a dopey fool. Benoit misses the headbutt, but then shortly after makes Morgan tap out. It was short, but it wasn't sweet, and it's not something I want to repeat. D. Match 5, SmackDown, later that night. 20-man over the top rope battle royal for the shot at Brock Lesnar's world title. Most of the guys don't get their entrances shown, including a certain big match John Cena. But Matt Morgan and Nathan Jones come out together with their entrance shown. Our guy does absolutely nothing, but he does manage to fight the Big Show off of him as he goes for the elimination. Eventually every wrestler works together to throw the Big Show out. This is a really fun match, but it's not your typical 20 men plodding around smashing into each other match. Morgan gets the elimination on Rhino, surprisingly. Morgan then crushes 3 guys in the corner with his foot. Cena and Benoit then chuck our guy out of the match along with Rikishi, Haas and Chuck Palumbo. The match ends with Benjamin, Eddie, Cena and Benoit fighting for a long time as they show off their ringmanship. It comes down to Cena and Benoit and there's a big argument over whose feet hit first. I'll give him the obligatory C here because he did eliminate one man and he managed to look like a slightly bigger deal than normal. Match 6, it's Hardcore Holly and Jeff Hardy's stoner friend who's already been destroyed in the ring by Lesnar, and they're taking on A-Train and Matt Morgan, who attacks Shannon while Holly is distracted. Morgan knocks Shannon down with a headbutt and then he chokes him across the ropes. You know, standard big man stuff. Morgan throws Shannon across the ring, but for some reason it didn't look very impactful. Morgan locks on a painful looking bear hug, but he doesn't bother covering him. Come to think of it, I've barely seen Morgan make a single cover, apart from that one match that he won. A-Train misses a splash, and then Shannon makes the tag to Holly. Hardcore Holly flies through the air like the Hawk and hits a clothesline on Morgan, but he can't put him away. Lesnar then uses a distraction to cream Holly with a chair. Morgan then hits the sit-out powerbomb, but somehow Holly kicks out of that. A-Train accidentally kicks Morgan in the face, and this allows Holly to hit a massive Alabama slam on Morgan. Damn! Okay, I mean the crowd really liked this match, and they were actually chanting Holly. This is no mean feat. Quite enjoyed this one. I'm going to give it a B. The next match is over 19 minutes. Matt Morgan in a 19-minute match on SmackDown. Why? Match 7, SmackDown, Handicap match. John Cena teams with Chris Benoit, and they take on Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman, and Rhino, Matt Morgan, who comes out to zero reaction by the way, and the Big Show. Well, it should be the Big Show, but he's been barricaded in his locker room with a forklift. Paul Heyman takes the definition of a ringside seat to a new level. Brock Lesnar's scared of Benoit and tags Morgan in. Cena hits a big slam on Morgan for a 2. Honestly, this match is just about Benoit and Lesnar feuding. In fact, Morgan barely does anything. When he does try, he's useless and gets the German suplexes from Benoit. Lesnar tries to leave the match, but Hardcore Holly runs out to attack him. Lesnar does then eventually manage to leave the match, and it carries on without him. Matt Boring really does have the, well, for a lack of a better word, most boring offense I've ever seen. Now that Lesnar's gone, the spotlight is on Rhino, which is quite cool. Morgan misses a couple of elbow drops, and then he gets hit with an enziguri. Benoit's been isolated for ages, but he finally tags Cena in. Morgan is just useless. Cena shoves Morgan out the ring like a piece of trash. Cena then wins the match with the FU on Rhino. After the match, Morgan tries to attack Cena, but he's not even successful after that. It was a good match, but remember, in Ring of the Hawk, the competitor is graded for their role in the match, and his role here was pretty much useless. They almost went out of their way not to tag him in. I give it a D. No botches, but bad, boring offense, nothing impressive. Match 8, Royal Rumble 2004. Matt Boring comes in and hits a beautiful powerbomb on Benoit. He then follows that up by kicking Matt Hardy's head off. He's already been more impressive in 10 seconds than his entire WWE run added together. Morgan gets Orton in the corner and hits him with the shoulders. The Hurricane then enters the match, but he's not able to take Matt Morgan down. Morgan then chucks him out the ring and the crowd are livid. Morgan almost eliminates Matt Hardy after this, but he fails. Morgan tries to hit a power bomb on Kane, but that was stupid and Kane fights it off and hits a choke slam on Morgan. Rikishi gives Matt Morgan the stink face. Morgan then goes for a boot in the corner, but Benoit dodges it. Matt Morgan gets hung up on the ropes and then Benoit throws him out. Chris Benoit of course goes on to win the Royal Rumble, but I was pleasantly surprised with our guy's performance here. He lasted 12 minutes in the match, and he managed to throw someone out, so he's guaranteed at least a C. Do you know what? He actually felt like he had a presence in this match. Let's give him a B. It looks like there are big things to come from Matt Morgan in the WWE. The next match is 15 months later. Why? What happened? They just booked him to do quite well in the Royal Rumble, and now he's taken off TV just like that? Matt Morgan has since explained it that they were supposed to be teaming him up with Nathan Jones for a proper run as a tag team, but he quit, and his other role of guarding Brock Lesnar also came to an end because Brock quit. They didn't have anything for Matt Morgan to do, so they sent him to developmental. Matt Morgan did eventually make it back to the main roster, but there was a catch.
I am not nervous. I'm gonna make my impact, Matt Morgan, and destroy Matt Morgan.
Excuse me, did you just say impact?
This was a gimmick that Vince McMahon came up with. It was supposed to get Matt Morgan heat and attention. Other wrestlers told Matt Morgan that if he was offered an opportunity, he should take it no matter how stupid it is. So I guess a young guy taking advice from the other wrestlers, you can't really blame him for that. So here we are. Match 9, SmackDown. Matt Morgan makes his return with not just a stutter, but a black goatee and hair. Yeah, that'll make him more exciting. It's Matt Morgan versus a jobber called Brett Matthews. Oh, it's Zack Ryder, isn't it? Matt Morgan starts out by accusing the jobber of laughing at his stutter. Morgan kicks his head off with a big boot. He follows that up with a huge clothesline to the back of his head. He hits a sidewalk slam and then sets him up for his first ever elevator. The commentary team are very impressed with the finisher. A great re-debut to be fair. It accomplished what it needed to do, and Morgan looked like a force to be reckoned with. I give it a B. Match 10, SmackDown, Matt Morgan, and he's taking on an English jobber called Mikey Whiplash. Lash, not Wreck, although I was confused I had to check. Matt Morgan cuts a stuttering promo before the match. This makes him extremely angry. Matt Morgan beats the jobber in about 30 seconds with the elevator. Not as impressive as last week. C. Match 11, SmackDown, Matt Morgan versus Robbie E? Or is it Robert Stone as some of you now know him by? Look how young and small he looks here. Morgan threatens him but he keeps stuttering and spits all over Robbie E. Robbie's corpsing and then he gets a headbutt from Morgan. Morgan then hits a giant slam. It's not looking good for dear old Robbie E here, is it? Morgan puts him away at the elevator. Well, I mean, it was the same match as the last two. I'm going to take it down a grade until something different happens. So here's your D. Match 12, SmackDown, Matt Morgan versus Funaki. Oh great, it's going to be an F, isn't it? The commentary team say this is going to be Morgan's toughest test to date. Says a lot really, doesn't it? Funaki tells Morgan he is SmackDown's #1 announcer. Morgan tells Funaki that everybody's laughing at the way he talks. Funaki thumbs him in the eye. Morgan then boots Funaki in the head. Morgan stamps on his nutsack to follow that up. The commentary team is talking about how everyone is laughing at how stupid Matt Morgan is. Morgan gives him the guillotine on the ropes, then he picks him up and hits the elevator for the 3. Sorry Morgan, it's an F. Nothing's changing or improving, and show after show you become more of a joke. And after this, something I've been asking, something finally happened. Matt Morgan attacked the Big Show, and he hits the F5 through a table. It's pretty cool. Not sure if him doing the F5 was a shot at Brock Lesnar for leaving the WWE. Morgan is now in the role of a bodyguard for Carlito. I completely forgot this ever happened. Unfortunately, within 5 minutes of the pairing happening, Cena tears him apart and calls him a Michael Cole wannabe due to his thinning black hair. The crowd will chant Michael Cole at him. This sets up the next match. Match 13, SmackDown main event. John Cena and the Big Show, who is still feeling the results of the Matt Morgan attack last week, versus Carlito and Matt Morgan. Now for probably the biggest botch of Matt Morgan's time in WWE. Well, it's certainly the biggest botch I've seen when doing this video. Big Show presses Carlito and chucks him out the ring. Morgan is supposed to catch him but drops him and Carlito takes a painful crash to the outside. Cena beats up Morgan in the ring and hits a scoop slam and an elbow drop for a 2. Morgan then boots Cena in the head, and for some reason it looked a lot less impressive than when he was doing it to jobbers. Morgan hits a scoop and an elbow of his own and it's a 2 count. Morgan hits another scoop and then misses an elbow. It really is quite dull. Big Show then beats him up and hits a sidewalk slam, but Big Show hurt his ribs. Big Show gets isolated and Matt Morgan hits a Russian leg sweep for a 2. Morgan puts Big Show in a bear hug, but he refuses to tap. Morgan then hits a weak kick to Big Show, who manages to make the tag to Cena. Super Cena beats Morgan and Carlito up. Show then takes Morgan out the ring. Cena beats Carlito with the FU. A decent match. Being with Carlito is definitely more suitable for him. I'll give him a C. After this match, Matt Morgan is seen backstage crying and whimpering and apologising to Carlito as he yells at him. Way to look tough, Morgan. You've got this giant stuttering and whimpering like a complete idiot. This isn't the first time Matt Morgan has cowered in fear from someone that he shouldn't be. You'd think they could drop the stuttering gimmick now, by the way, as he's teamed up with Carlito, but I'm obviously wrong about that. Match 14, SmackDown, The Big Show versus Matt Morgan. This one could be ugly. Big Show chops Matt Morgan in the corner as he screams in pain. Show hits a clothesline and an elbow. Carlito then comes out to ringside and Big Show is distracted. Morgan knees him in the back and then knocks him out of the ring to allow Carlito to get the attack. Back in the ring, Morgan starts booting Big Show and hits a leg drop for a 2 count. Morgan tries to put the submission on, but Big Show fights out of it with a back suplex. Big Show hits a splash and a headbutt and knocks Morgan out of the ring. On the outside, Morgan throws Big Show into the steps. Morgan then starts tearing the commentary table apart. He's looking to repeat his attack on Big Show, but Show fights him off and tries to hit a chokeslam, so Carlito hits him in the back for chair. Despite this chair shot, they still fail because Morgan smashes into Carlito. Show then hits the chokeslam on Morgan through the table. A bad match. F. Carlito was then drafted to Raw, breaking up this short-lived team. Match 15, Matt Morgan versus William Regal. Well, it would have been, but the Mexicals come out on their lawnmower. Regal is scared of them, so he just stays on the side. The Mexicals beat up Matt Morgan with a rake. The Mexicals slide Morgan out the ring and throw the rake out after him. And that is the final appearance of Matt Morgan on WWE, as the Mexicals cut an extremely racist promo stretching their eyes about Japanese people. And that's it, it really was just 14 matches on the main show. People wonder why wrestlers don't get over. You've got Cena making fun of his receding hairline, and Morgan not able to get a reply on the mic. Morgan's trying to threaten people, but can't because he's stuttering and looking stupid. He's clumsy, and he's awkward, and he has boring offense. Honestly, I was digging him with Carlito, but take away the stupid stuttering gimmick first and you might have something. He was definitely better in TNA. He was more agile and he'd slimmed down a bit. I was trying to find a wrestler that was horrendously bad for Ring of the Hawk this week, but honestly, it wasn't an F. I'm sorry, it just wasn't. Morgan wasn't botchy, he was just boring. I'm giving him a D, and if you don't agree with that, I'll smack you for free.